Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paripradhakacharya Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giti Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navadip Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj, and thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu, for leading us in Kirtan. And thank you, everyone, for being here for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Monday, February 13th, 2023 in New York, a day later in Vrindavan. And we are reading in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. Tonight, we're starting with verse number 24. And we're happy that you could be with us, Maharaj. Is that the same verse that you also had?
Excuse me?
Is that the same verse number that you also had?
Yes.
Jai. So, yes, thank you for being with us, Maharaj, and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Akendra Prabhu. And thank you to all. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Etasyam sadvi sanjayam Bhagavan Bhuta Padanaha Padito Bhuta Parshad Bhir Vishenati Bhutarat. Lord Shiva The king of the ghosts, sitting on the back of his bull carrier, travels at this time, accompanied by ghosts who follow him for their welfare. Purport: Lord Shiva, or Rudra, is the king of the ghosts. Ghostly characters worship Lord Shiva to be gradually guided toward a path of self-realization. Mayavadi philosophers are mostly worshippers of Lord Shiva, and Sripad Shankaracharya is considered to be the incarnation of Lord Shiva for preaching godlessness to the Mayavadi philosophers. Ghosts are bereft of a physical body because of their grievously sinful acts, such as suicide. The last resort of the ghostly characters in human society is to take shelter of suicide, either material or spiritual. Material suicide causes loss of the physical body, and spiritual suicide causes loss of the individual identity. Mayavadi philosophers desire to lose their individuality and merge into the impersonal spiritual Brahmajyoti existence. Lord Shiva, being very kind to the ghosts, sees that although they are condemned, they get physical bodies. He places them into the wombs of women who indulge in sexual intercourse regardless of the restrictions on time and circumstance. Kashyapa wanted to impress this fact upon Diti so that she might wait for a while. Om Jnana Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrashatam Shahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lolita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Puri Priye Vanshakol Pitarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Kashyap Muni is speaking to his wife Diti, trying to get her to hold off on her desire for sexual union. And he warns her that this is an inauspicious time for sex, because at this time the ghosts are around. Etasyam sadvi sandhyayam. This time is sandhya, Dhyayam Tuvam Tasya Yashastri Sandhyam. There are three sandhyas. Sandhya means joining points. The joining of morning and evening at dawn, the midday and joining of morning and afternoon, and then the dusk, the joining of afternoon and evening. So this is the dusk, sandhya, and unsuitable, an inauspicious time for sex. Etasyam sadvi, he addresses his wife as almost chaste wife, which she's not, because she's pushing for this unauthorized sex. Etasyam sadvi sandhyayam Bhagavan Bhuta Bhavana. And Lord Shiva is Bhuta Parshad P. He has, a man is known by his company, but Lord Shiva is very kind to his company, Parshads. The Lord Shiva is the most unconventional person. His glories are described in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. There's a very nice description of Lord Shiva's transcendental characteristics. And Bhuta Bhavana, he's the well-wisher of the ghosts, and he's surrounded by the ghosts. And Bhutarat, he's the king of the ghosts. The materialistic rationalists automatically oppose the notion that there could be such a thing as ghosts, although they're reported practically in every country, in every culture. There's, yes, their influence is found, their reports of their activities are found. There's even been interesting scientific research regarding hauntings and so on. But from Srimad Bhagavatam, we just take it as a fact that ghosts are there, and the rationalists automatically reject, despite evidence, the existence of ghosts. From Vedic literature, we understand that suicides become ghosts. The people in the mode of ignorance become ultra depressed, hopeless, and so miserable that they think that better than the misery of living would be to die. And so they take shelter of suicide. Their ignorance does them injustice, or not injustice, it's just, but they suffer from their ignorance because they think they're putting an end to their miseries, but in fact, they're making their miseries worse. It's something like trying to jump over the prison wall. They catch you and put you in solitary confinement, or some other form of punishment. So it's illegal. The body is the property of Krishna, or property given by Krishna. It's on loan. But if you destroy property that's only loaned to you, that's not good. So the suicides try to end their misery by killing themselves. But the result is that, having destroyed their gross body, in the next life, they don't get a gross body. They are confined to a subtle body where they're tormented in the sense that they still have desires for gross physical enjoyment, but they have no bodies with which to enjoy. And therefore, we sometimes see or perceive that ghosts try to take over the body of some other person in order to enjoy vicariously. The Mayavadis are compared to the ghosts as the suicides destroy their gross bodies. The impersonalists want to destroy their identity. And so they also assume a life which in one sense is ghostly because they're deprived of their of their identities. So this is also ignorance, to take resort of spiritual suicide. Life, they more philosophically than the drunkards and the others in the mode of ignorance. The Mayavadis have knowledge, they understand that material life consists of suffering, but their solution is similar. Well, we'll just put ourselves out of our misery, but it doesn't work. And they, what is that? Aruya Krishna Param Patam Tata Patantyaho Nadra Yushma. Saraswati asks whether this inauspicious time is it related to the witching hour? I don't know. Now is the witching hour of night when graveyards yawn and something. Anyway, we'll do without it. No. Witching hour, according to the dictionary, is midnight, or deep in the middle of the night. So no, this is not the witching hour. This is Sandhya. What happens to a devotee who commits suicide due to intense feelings of guilt? Well, that's not good. I can't say what happens to him. Junior Haridas, of course, took on a body like that of a Gandharva, and by special mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was able to do kirtan for the Lord. But so I can't say. To be a devotee is a mitigating factor, of course, but suicide is not recommended for a devotee or anyone else. Anything else? Any other questions or comments? If devotees feel guilt, then they should undertake the purifying process to engage themselves in devotional service, hearing, chanting, serving. That's the way to purify oneself, not suicide. Smashana chakrani latuli tumra vikirna vidyota jata kalapa Tasmavagun Tamala Rupmadeho Devastripi Pashyati Devaraste. Lord Shiva his body is reddish and he's unstained, but covered with ashes. His hair is dusty from the whirlwind dust of the burning crematorium. He is the younger brother of your husband, and he sees with his 3 eyes. Purport. Lord Shiva is not an ordinary living entity, nor is he in the category of Vishnu, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's far more powerful than any living entity, up to the standard of Brahma, yet he's not on an equal level with Vishnu. Since he's almost like Lord Vishnu, Shiva can see past, present, and future. One of his eyes is like the sun. Another is like the moon. And his third eye, which is between his eyebrows, is like fire. He can generate fire from his middle eye, and he's able to vanquish any powerful living entity, including Brahma. Yet he does not live pompously in a nice house, etc., nor does he possess any material properties, although he's master of the material world. He lives mostly in the crematorium, where dead bodies are burnt, and the whirlwind dust of the crematorium is his bodily dress. He's unstained by material contamination. Kashyapa took him as his younger brother because the youngest sister of Diti, Kashyapa's wife, was married to Lord Shiva. The husband of one's sister is considered one's brother. By that social relationship, Lord Shiva happened to be the younger brother of Kashyap. Kashyapa warned his wife that because Lord Shiva would see their sex indulgence, the time was not appropriate. Diti might argue that they would enjoy sex life in a private place. But Kashyapa reminded her that Lord Shiva has 3 eyes, called the sun, moon, and fire, and one cannot escape his vigilance any more than one can escape Vishnu. Although seen by the police, a criminal is sometimes not immediately punished. The police wait for the proper time to apprehend him. The forbidden time for sexual intercourse would be noted by Lord Shiva, and Diti would meet with proper punishment by giving birth to a child of ghostly character or a godless impersonalist. Kashyapa foresaw this, and thus he warned his wife, Diti. All right, any comments or questions here? Nayasya loke svajana parova natyadrito nota kaschid vigaryaha vayam vrataryachadana pavidham ashasmahe jam vatapukta bhogam. Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative, yet there's no one not connected with him. He does not regard anyone as very favorable or abominable. We respectfully worship the remnants of his foodstuff, and we vow to accept what is rejected by him. Purport. Kashyapa informed his wife that just because Lord Shiva happened to be his brother-in-law, that should not encourage her in her offense toward him. Kashyapa warned her that actually Lord Shiva is not connected with anyone, nor is anyone his enemy. Since he is one of the three controllers of the universal affairs, he's equal to everyone. His greatness is incomparable because he's a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said that among all the devotees of the Personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva is the greatest. Thus, the remnants of foodstuff left by him are accepted by other devotees as Mahaprasad, or great spiritual foodstuffs. The remnants of foodstuffs offered to Lord Krishna are called prasad, but when the same prasad is eaten by a great devotee like Lord Shiva, it is called Mahaprasad. Lord Shiva is so great that he doesn't care for the material prosperity for which every one of us is so eager. Parvati, who is the powerful material nature personified, is under his full control as his wife. Yet he does not use her even to build a residential house. He prefers to remain without shelter, and his great wife also agrees to live with him humbly. People in general worship Goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, for material prosperity, but Lord Shiva engages her in his service without material desire. He simply advises his great wife that of all kinds of worship, the worship of Vishnu is the highest, and greater than that is the worship of a great devotee or anything in relation with Vishnu. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarcham. All kinds of worship. Worship of Vishnu is the best, and higher than worship of Vishnu is worship of Lord Vishnu's devotee, or that which is in relationship to the Lord. Again, in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we read how Lord Shiva engages his wife, Parvati, in auspicious activities like Sankirtan of the Lord. Saraswati says, we hear how materialists worship Lord Shiva, Brahma, Durga for material things, and they do fulfill those desires. But this couldn't be due to some contractual obligation. So don't they have the power to refuse? We see how demons worship them to cause mischief. So can they not refuse to grant the demons what they want? Apparently they can, because Lord Nrsingadev advised Lord Brahma, in the future, don't do this, don't grant boons to such demons. So the implication is that Lord Brahma has the freedom to follow that instruction. Otherwise, what's the use of giving it? That said, by austerity, the demons may become exceedingly powerful. And so Lord Brahma, facing the severe austerities of Hiranyakashipu, was afraid himself and was appealed to by the demigods also. You have to do something. You have to do something. So just sometimes we see this, that there's a government that becomes a powerful, belligerent state, and they attack in so many ways. And then other states are faced with what to do. And so one strategy is appeasement. What is that? Samadhamma Dana Bade. These are different political policies. So one is to try to pacify the belligerent party. So then that means making concessions. So it appears that Brahma sometimes takes that approach, that all right, we have to give these demons some concession. We have to give them some kind of boon, because they have undergone severe austerities and penances, and for that they're supposed to be entitled to material compensation. So Lord Brahma supplies that compensation, although, as you say, it appears he does have the power to refuse. All right, are there some other comments or questions? Tulsi Priya, wouldn't these personalities also take it for granted that these desires and the consequences of granting them are part of the larger karmic scenario? So what would be the point of not fulfilling them? Yeah, I suppose that's a reasonable supposition. It's like, all right, he's done the tapasya, he's entitled in the larger scheme of things. This looks like, is this Gurudas? Yeah, it looks like it's Gurudas, who was in hospital and has now been released.
Yes, Maharaj. So glad to be back.
Welcome back. Looking back at the last purport, Prabhupada seems to indicate that the punishment for intercourse at an inappropriate time is producing a child who is a ghost or an impersonalist. Can we connect this to how Prabhupada expands on this in other places, that the man and woman who combine are doomed anyway to have low-class progeny if the Garbhadan samskara is not performed? Let's take something for the throat here. Well, first of all, let's clarify a few things. The child born of sexual intercourse performed at an inappropriate time won't be a ghost, because a ghost isn't born. Ghosts don't get gross material bodies, so they're not so fortunate as to receive a body. So one wouldn't be born as a ghost, or one wouldn't have a child who's a ghost. But inauspicious, we see that there are people who look ghostly. Oh, I remember I was in Gita Nagari one time, and the devotee whose place I was staying in had a neighbor, and whoa, just seeing her was like practically seeing a ghost. You could see the modes of nature crawling over her. And I wasn't sure whether she was an apparition or what, and talking with her was spooky. So there are people who, although not ghosts, are afflicted by ghosts. We see that people in the mode of ignorance may be haunted, or they may be, you can practically see on their faces that they're influenced by ghostly powers. Those who are mad also, your psychiatric institutions can give the appearance of being haunted. And not just the appearance, they can be haunted because the ghosts take advantage of those whose subtle bodies are weak. If one is intoxicated, if one is mad, then, or in some other way, under the lowest modes of nature, then the ghost can take the opportunity to try to enter that person's body, try to possess that person's body, or in other ways try to create mischief. Whereas the devotees will be transcendental to ghostly influence. We hear how Srila Prabhupada in various occasions drove away ghosts just by having kirtan or calling for kirtan. So one may have a child who's influenced by ghosts or influenced by the impersonalist philosophy. As far as the men and women who combine are doomed anyway to have low-class progeny if the Garbhadhan samskar is not performed. Yeah, the idea is that sex should be with the intention of getting a good child. And therefore, according to the Vedic tradition, especially for the higher castes, the Garbhadhan samskara is performed. Just to create the purest possible mentality for the birth of a good child. For devotees, Srila Prabhupada said, there's no question of Garbhadhan samskara. He wrote this to my godbrother Madhusudan Prabhu. And he said, if we go by Manu, he said, you're all mlechas, yavanas, unfit for these things. So forget Manu Samhita as far as Garbhadhan samskar. But he directed that the husband and wife should chant 50 rounds before having sex, so that a good child might be produced, a child born in purified consciousness. So there was never, for Srila Prabhupada, sex was not just something you do for enjoyment, and the byproduct might be a child, or you use some sort of contraceptive method to prevent the birth of a child. Srila Prabhupada, on Vedic authority, considered this sinful. In Bhagavatam, we cited the other day, Vyavahaya Prajaya Naratya. Sex should be undertaken for the sake of getting a good child, not for the sake of enjoyment. So yes, so I think that answers the question. And then there's a question by Praveen earlier. Let's see that one. Ya bhajanti ye yata devan deva api tatayavatan chayeva karma sachiva sadhavo dina vatsala. Those who worship the demigods receive reciprocation in a way just corresponding to the offering. The demigods are attendants of karma, like a person's shadow. But sadhus are actually merciful to the fallen. Yes, I think we were reading that verse the other day. The demigods, basically, although they must have some wiggle room, but they're like managers. You fill out all the forms, you pay your fee, and they issue whatever it is that you've requisitioned. Now, sometimes a manager should use his discretion. No, for this reason or that reason, I can't sell a gun to this person, or I can't authorize him to have a gun, or whatever the matter might be. But in the ordinary course of things, you fill out the forms, you pay your fee, and you're entitled to what you undertook the trouble for. So in karmic activities, similarly. Now let's move down. Meena, a ghost isn't a ghost eternally. They must at some point change to some other form. That's mentioned that by the grace of Lord Shiva, they may be given a form. So it's not that one has a child who is a ghost, but one may have a child who was a ghost. So that's also not the greatest background to come from. And Kashyapa warns Diti that if we have sex at this inauspicious time, then we may have a child who's coming from Lord Shiva's Parshadas, from his associates of the ghostly category. So it's Lord Shiva's mercy. They get a body, but one may not be eager to get a child of that category. In India, Saraswati says, you see these tantrics that claim to exorcise evil spirits from the bodies they possess. But this looks like a farce, as they're simply whacking the possessed person with sticks, throwing ash, and shouting some mantra. So is it even possible to remove the spirits from hosts? Well, now we get into ghost kata and ghost technology. First of all, in every sphere of human life, there's cheating. So in India and elsewhere, you find people who just falsely claim to be able to drive away ghosts, or they have miracle cures for this or that disease, or they have the magic formula that will make you rich or whatever. And it's not only India, we see these things in the West also. So many forms of cheating. So that's first. Then the next thing is that, yes, it appears there are ways to get rid of ghosts. The Christians had their rituals for exorcism. I won't say much about the efficacy or lack of efficacy of those methods, but there's some tradition and history for it, which one could look into. And in the Vedic culture also, the ghosts can be driven out, especially by Harinam. We find that after the killing of Putana, the Brajbasis and Yashodamai chanted so many names of Vishnu to protect the child from all sorts of demons and ghosts. So the chanting of the holy name of the Lord provides protection, or the chanting of the holy name of the Lord can drive ghosts away, as Prabhupada illustrated in some various instances. Another benefit of Harinam. Even we see that Srila Prabhupada took hippies who were people who were, practically speaking, haunted. They were taking various drugs, they were intoxicated, they were wearing long hair, like some imitation Shivas. They were full of crazy ideas and dirty habits. So they were like associates of Lord Shiva. They were like ghostly haunted persons, full of false ego, which is also controlled by Lord Shiva, and bewildered and ignorant. Srila Prabhupada took such persons in the mode of ignorance and transformed them into saintly people, free from intoxicants, free from illicit sex, bright-faced, that means shining from the mode of goodness. People who were previously, Prabhupada described them as being dirty-looking and so on. So Prabhupada freed these people from ghostly life and made them saintly people. Meena says, if the ghosts hear the holy names, they must be benefited also. Yes, certainly. Certainly. But we don't want to invite them into our homes and have them as our children by having illicit sex. We're not advised to try to be so merciful. Better to follow. Anything else here? Okay, we can read another verse. You just check. Yes. Yasyan avadya charitam manishino pranancha vidya patalam bipitsavaha hirasta samyati shayo piyat swayam pishachacharyam acharad gatis. Although no one in the material world is equal to or greater than Lord Shiva, and although his unimpeachable character is followed by great souls to dismantle the mass of nescience, he nevertheless remains as if a devil to give salvation to all devotees of the Lord. Purport: Lord Shiva's uncivilized, devilish characteristics are never abominable because he teaches the sincere devotees of the Lord how to practice detachment from material enjoyment. You see that, for example, in his dealings with the Prachetas. He's called Mahadeva, or the greatest of all demigods, and no one is equal to or greater than him in the material world. He's almost equal with Lord Vishnu. Although he always associates with Maya, Durga, he is above the reactionary stage of the three modes of material nature. And although he is in charge of devilish characters in the mode of ignorance, he is not affected by such association. So this is the greatness of Lord Shiva. Although he appears wild and devilish, he's actually the most sober and exalted. He has Maya as his wife, the goddess of the material energy, and yet he doesn't use her for enjoyment of material things. So the standard of his renunciation is so high. He could call for any kind of material enjoyments, but he doesn't even keep a house to live in. He doesn't even bother with material things. He derives his pleasure from meditation on Sankarshan or Krishna. All right, any questions there? Okay, I think we can stop here. If we try to take on another purport, it will be more than we want to handle. So we will stop here. And who would like to do kirtan?
I wouldn't mind. Hare Krishna. Apurva here.
Go ahead, Apurva Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Satasri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Jamunamai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Apurva Prabhu. And thank you to Haridas and Meena and all.
We hope
Thank
to see arts.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
What did he say about the bed?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for being here and hope to see you again on Wednesday. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai,
Maharaj ki jai.
Jai,
Thank you, Maharaj.
Samaveta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hari Bol.
Welcome back, Gurudas Prabhu.
Hi.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Or thank you, Tulsi Priya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.